Our speakers today are quite a trio. Brenda Eubanks Burnett, and she's accompanied with Jerry Chicone and Jim Ellis. These are the experts of the citrus label collections of the state of Florida. Brenda serves as the executive director for the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame, which is now located at Florida Southern College. She's responsible for the annual induction ceremony and various presentations and outreach on behalf of the citrus industry's rich history. She's written, produced, and directed several videos on the Florida citrus industry, and in 1981 served as Florida's Citrus Queen. She served as consumer spokesperson for the Florida Department of Citrus. She is the owner of Burnett and Associates Marketing. And in 1996, she collaborated with Mr. Chicone to publish the sold-out book, Florida Citrus Crate Labels. It's an illustrated history. It is a companion book to the book that we are offering today that is Florida's first billboard citrus crate labels. So Brenda, stand up and then I'll introduce your companions. So welcome, Brenda. Jerry Chicone. This is so neat. Give him a hand, he's here. Yep. Jerry was born in Orange County at the Orange County General Hospital on Orange Avenue. His first introduction to citrus was by riding through the groves with his father in an old Chevrolet, we are told, standing on the seat and often hitting his head on the ceiling as his father gunned the car through the sand, earning his first nickname, Bumpy. His first job in the industry was pruning citrus trees for his father and getting paid by the tree. He attended the University of Florida, graduating as a business major in 1956. He soon went to work with his father at the family partnership, Chicone Grows. He has been very active in promoting the Florida citrus industry and lobbying on behalf of Florida citrus growers throughout the state. He is a founding member of the Florida Citrus Label Collectors Association and a collector of citrus label art. He's involved with Jim Ellis in putting together the first book on Florida citrus labels in 1985. He and Brenda Eubanks Burnett published a follow-up book in 1996. It was inducted into the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame in 2009. And I'll just add my own little personal experience. I just on Saturday spent the day at Winter Garden, and he has just been so involved in the restoration and the preservation of that beautiful little town. Give yourselves a great day and go up to Winter Garden and spend the day. Jim Ellis was born in a wooden house in the middle of an orange grove. His childhood summers he spent with his parents in his parents' groves and spent years managing packing houses. He attended Florida Southern College where he studied citrus, starting out as a field agent for Florida Citrus Mutual. Jim soon moved to the citrus packing houses where he spent more than 20 years. I think that certainly makes you an expert on citrus labels. He works in citrus licensing and bonding for the Florida Department of Citrus, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. He's an avid collector of citrus crate labels and the contributor to the book, Florida Citrus Crate Labels, Florida's First Billboards. Goodness gracious, aren't they great and experts in the field? So welcome them, and Brenda will take us into a history.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Murtis. Really appreciate that wonderful presentation on our three histories. These guys should be the ones up here instead of me, but I got the short straw, so here we go. Let me see if we can find the clicker. Here we go. Yes, darling. Now you know why I hang around with these guys. I'm telling you, it's a great ego boost. Well, Florida Southern College and the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame have been in the process the last several years of creating a digital library of Florida citrus crate labels, which currently consists of the collections of Jim and Jerry, both of whom have been kind of my mentors in this entire thing. I met them when I was at the Florida Citrus Showcase as the executive director. We had a first label show there, and I'm telling you, once the bug gets you and you start collecting labels, you can't ever look back, and these guys are responsible for it. So if you would like to view the digital label collection, it features over 1,500 images, and you can visit the website at www.floridacitrushallofFame.com. and click on Label Collection. We also have postcards and industry photographs, so it's a great resource if you'd like to do any type of an educational exhibit in your area. And we are in the process of also assisting other cities and municipalities, history centers, in trying to put together citrus exhibits at their areas. In fact, we're working with the Florida State Fairgrounds to do a citrus exhibit in Cracker Country this year. So that should be up there in February. If you guys go to the fair, then you'll see something there, and we've had something to do with that. So our presentation today will give you just a brief overview of citrus labels. But like I said, if once you do start collecting them, if you have not already started, it is something that you just can't get over. The artwork is what drew me in, and the history is what made me stay. So lithography began in the late 1800s with the first crate labels starting probably around California area. They were used not only for citrus, but also for vegetables and other fruits that were shipped in the wooden crates at the time. Now, a lot of people do confuse those crates with the field crates, which were a totally different animal. Those were 90 pounds, they had handles, and they did not have the box ends that you see on the end of this one here. They lasted shortly until after World War II, when shortages of wood and metal brought about the cardboard boxes with pre-printed brand names that you see today. But the 60-year span during which these labels were used carries a colorful history of the very early advertising and marketing practices of the era. In the case of the Florida citrus, these whimsical labels were also a form of colorized billboards for Florida citrus, since they took advantage of Florida's natural attributes, such as birds, as a marketing tool, as well as various regional highlights. One example is the Tower brand. It utilized a picture of Bach Tower that was also on a postcard at the time. Now, Edward Bach was the founder of Bach Tower, and he was the editor of the Ladies' Home Journal, so he was a very influential man, which certainly helped buyers to recognize the label. Now, another was the provocative Deepwater brand, and you can see why. It played off the mermaids of the Weeki Wachee tourist attraction and Florida's deep water fishing resources, but more importantly, the men were the primary buyers at the time, so I'm pretty sure they would have, their eye would have been drawn to this label. I don't, that's not on my, I don't get that one. Thanks, Jim. Now, a number of labels have interesting stories like that on how or why they got their names, and many of the packing houses carried a particular theme, such as flowers, pets, family members. This was Andy, Andy Spade over in Tampa. And a number of other things. Now, some labels even started out representing a different commodity, such as the Cardinal brand for Southern fruit distributors. It was originally a Washington apple label prior to being purchased by the Caruso family of Orlando to represent their citrus fruit. Steve Caruso went on to run the Florida's natural operation in Lake Wales and is in the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame. Others, such as American Fruit Growers' Blue Goose brand and Snowboy, represented all of the fruit shipped by that company, whether it was citrus, apples, pears, lemons, or vegetables. Now, the major printer of lithographic labels in Florida was the Florida Grower Press in Tampa. Originally, the Florida Grower magazine, they started printing labels in an attempt to fill press time between magazine runs. Now, eventually, Florida Grower Press ended up printing over 70% of all the labels registered under the Florida Citrus Exchange, which this was the Florida Citrus Exchange located in the Moss Building. That's now known as Sealed Suite, and approximately 90% of all of the vegetable labels used in Florida. Much of the artwork was done by popular artists of the time, but since it was considered commercial work, none were ever signed. So artists included Clarence Hornbeck, Ed Bott, Carl Wagner, L. Chevrolange, who was also an artist for National Geographic, Harry Buse, who created the Valencia Gardens murals, and Norman Bowman, to name just a few. Their images resulted in chronicling the ever-changing styles of the times and giving us a colorful snapshot of Florida marketing history. Now, another major printer was the IPC Denison Company, which began as the International Playing Card Company in 1929 to manufacture playing cards. However, as the demand for playing cards diminished, the production of labels for food and tobacco products began. In 1930, the name was changed to the International Playing Card and Label Company, and production shifted exclusively to label printing. They were one of the largest independently owned label printers in the country for a number of years, until they merged with Denison Manufacturing Company in 1977. Now, also known as the Rogersville Card and Label Company collection. The labels range primarily from the years 1929 to 1978 and can be seen at the Archives of Appalachia in Rogersville, Tennessee. Now, Florida labels were primarily either 9 by 9 in size or 5 by 5 for a 2/5 bushel box, or a strip label for tangerines, whereas California and Texas labels were much larger due to the use of a different size crate. They did not have these end panels like you see right over on this one. So they had a larger label. The labels themselves were also printed in a 4-color process using light blue, yellow, red, and dark blue. They were pasted on the ends of either railed wooden boxes or wire-bound boxes in preparation for the trip north. You can just see in the packing line here where they're doing that. And Jim told me something that I had never known. He said they were only pasted on one end. And I always thought there was one on each end. Just one end. So that I learned something. This is just this week. So and we've been doing this for 30 years or so. Now, people also, like I said, often confuse these with the field crates. And I've got a picture of the field crate right here for you. It's upended in the Grove. This is from my friend Lori Grubb, former Florida citrus queen. And you can see the difference. These were the 90-pound boxes that the fruit heart pickers would have to hoist up on their shoulders and put on the back of the trucks and then take them to the packing houses. Now, the first Florida orange crates were said to have been put together by Captain James McMullen of Pinellas County, who had workers split 3-foot boards and put them together and tie them together with palmetto stems. I'm just going to show you just a little difference on these two crates that we have up here. This one has birch veneer strips that have been hammered onto the ends and the sides and put together. So this is an earlier version. This is actually from Bartow. When we finish the presentation, you're welcome to come up here and look around. You'll see the stencil on the outside of this, whereas that one has the label. And on the sides of this one, you can also see where the 4 color starts to come into place, where they have the different, the green and the orange, primarily because the majority of the fruit that went up north started going up there during the Christmas holiday season. It was considered quite a delicacy to get oranges in your stocking in the middle of the winter up north. Now, after leaving the packing house, the fruit would be transported by either steamship or train or both. And of course, it went by some of the major waterways. It would go up to the Jacksonville area and go from there to the major auction centers in the Northeast, which were primarily New York and Chicago. Now, once in the warehouses, this is where it gets interesting. The crates would be stacked high with the labels showing on the outside. And again, they would all be, from what Jim has told me, just the labels on the one end. But you can see how they're all stacked there. It's the label auctions, the citrus auctions took place very early in the morning. And so it was pretty dim, it's pretty cold. They were in the large warehouses located next to the railroad yards, so the lighting tended to be rather dim. You can get an idea just from this old picture here. But the labels, since most, if not all, as I said, the labels were male, the colorful images on the labels did run the gamut. And it ran from the fun ones, the colorful ones that would catch their eye, to the rags, the dog, to the risque, another one, lady. There were quite a few of these, and in fact, Jim has told me several stories about when the salesmen were selling the labels to the people here in Florida. They had special samples that they would show that, no, you couldn't buy. And then there were the other ones that you could buy. And I know at Florida Southern we've been asking, we really want to have that other sample just to have it in the archives. We want to preserve that for sure. So now you'll sometimes, you'll sometimes see the same label image, but with different names. Now these are called stock images, stock labels. The printers kept the stock labels on hand for packing houses who ran out of their regular labels and needed something either printed up quickly or for those shippers who simply wanted to use a generic label due to cost factors. Now in this case, the packing house or brand may have changed labels. Hold on, get to the next slide there. All of these that you see up here will have different names of other companies on them. I've got several in my collection. I know that Jim and Jerry do as well. But now sometimes what would happen was somebody would maybe either buy the organization or buy the brand, and in which case they would black out like that and put their own name over the one that that was there previously. So in Jim and Jerry's collection, I know I've seen this label with several different names on there, all blacked out like that. I don't know who the very first label was, because that also is still a stock label. But they didn't want to throw the labels out and reprint them, so they just blacked them out and put their own name on top of that. Now this is considered a variant label. In this case, you'll notice you've got not only the different colored shirts, you've got the red and the white shirts, but you have different colored horses, and they're bucking different ways. On the bottom here, you've got more juice. That was a Sealed Sweet logo, and they at one time were trying to promote the fact that Florida oranges, because of our seasonality and the wet weather that we have and the warm days and humidity, that our fruit is very thin-skinned, and actually when you squeeze it, there's a quarter more juice for our box of fruit than there would be for a California one, because California, due to its arid climate, had a very thick skin. The fruit, great to eat by hand because it didn't get all over your hands, it didn't get all the juice and everything, whereas ours did. And I know I've seen some pictures in our archives where they had this lady actually standing on a scale with a juice, where they would juice the whole box, and it's just trying to prove the point that Florida had more juice, a quarter cup more juice than the California varieties. You want me to go back to that one? The glass is right there. That's a glass there, and on top of it is an orange being squeezed into the glass. Now the rarity of the label is not always determined by the age, but by the availability of the individual label. Since there were over 5,000 individual Florida citrus label brands in existence, it seems hard to believe that there are not many labels still available. We only have in our archives, like I said, a little over 1,500. I believe that we know of about, is it 4,000 that you said, Jerry? 4,000 that the archives up in Tallahassee might have. But they're all in storage, and you'd have to really go up there and research it and find it out and cross-check it against what we have. But that is one of the reasons that we started putting our digital collection together, so that we could find out if there were people out there who had labels that we didn't have. And if you do have labels that are not in our collection, then we would like to be able to get those labels, scan them, digitize them, and add them to our collection, because we would like to have the largest online digital database of labels in the world, but more importantly, to be able to let people know that these labels were there. When the move to corrugated boxes began, at that point, those labels were taking up much needed space. So the packing house managers and the owners, they just throw them out. They didn't want them, they burned them. It was not until 1937 that any written records were kept that reflected all the various brands. So there were a number of labels in the early 1900s that we're just lucky to even find in somebody's collection, that people just stuck them away. A lot of them came out of the printing presses, where they had the samples that they had them in big file cabinets. But again, at some point, those started getting thrown out as well. So the early collectors, like Jim and Jerry and some of the California people, they would sweep through and try to get all of the labels that they could before they were destroyed. And it's, these labels are indicative of a unique era in our history. So it's very, very interesting, to me at least. But the labels that the Department of Citrus, which is now located in Bartow, it used to be in Lakeland, they standardized the grading process, and they required that all labels be registered, and that's where we get the numbers that we're aware of in terms of how many labels there were. But this was done not only to know what was out there, but to protect the quality of the fruit that was being sent out of Florida to the consumer. And it was in order to maintain the premium value that was associated with Florida citrus products. And every year you would try to get somebody to jump the gun and send some fruit out there that was a really inferior quality, and that ended up hurting everybody. So this was something, what was a move that was done by the growers themselves. The growers, they put a tax in place on themselves on each box of fruit that went to the commercial market, and they taxed themselves to create the Florida Department of Citrus and the Florida Citrus Commission to go ahead and improve the quality, regulate the industry, and make that something that we could continue to be proud of throughout the industry. Now, the label told the buyer not only the brand name, but what grade of fruit that they were purchasing, because the name or color background of the label stood for the grade, with blue being grade A, red being grade B, and yellow or green denoting grade C. And you can see that here. You'll see some of the, excuse me, you'll see like, oops, wrong way. But you'll see in this instance, you've got the blue, the yellow, that type of thing there. And that was I wish I would have put a different label in here where it showed the progression of, like, for instance, green dragon. You'd have the green dragon, but each behind it you would have a blue background, the red background, or a yellow background. But the green dragon remained consistent throughout, and that would tell you that grade of fruit there. Now, if you're collecting labels, you need to remember to use acid-free materials. And the labels that I'm going to pop up here now, these are all labels that are available. You could get these anytime at any label show you'd go to. The next label show will be February 14th at Florida's Natural Grove House. And they'll run anywhere from about $6 for the big ones up to maybe $50 to $75 in the general realm. When you start getting up into the very, very collectible labels, those labels can go anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars, because in most instances, or in many instances, you're dealing with one-of-a-kind labels. And the people who are dealing in that, at that level, they know what they're doing. But these labels, you have to remember, they were normally printed on the poorest quality wood pulp paper, so they're very fragile with age. So if you are collecting labels, you want to remember just a couple of things. Number one, don't ever put them in a magnetic album, because those pages are coated with glue, which will eventually break down the paper. If you're putting your labels in any type of an album at all, make sure they are polyester sleeves lined with acid-free boards. And if you're framing them, make sure the label doesn't touch the glass, since the glass is subject to moisture and condensation, which is harmful to the paper. And more importantly, and I say this because I went over to the Sealed Suite offices several years ago. They have this beautiful display of original labels that are all framed in nice glass. But right in front of that is a huge glass window. So every day the sun beats down on those labels. Are so faded out now, and it's just such a shame, because they had some great, Sealed Suite has just some phenomenal labels. But as I said, if you're going to want to get started in the label collecting, again, these are some more additional labels. The harder to find ones are much more expensive. The Blue Lake label is probably the most expensive one I have up here. Walter Hawkins might be right around there. I've seen Walter Hawkins go for around $100, but I think it's down to $50 now. I know Blue Lake is around $50. Silver King's probably $20. Crescent City's probably $20. Boss is probably $6. Flo is probably around $15, that particular version. Now, she's in a two-piece here. Flo is interesting because she started out in a one-piece. And then there's another version of the one-piece where it had a button on it. So there's several different progressions. The latest, that's exactly. You can age the label that way. And Flo, it was in the river, and you'll notice down here, Oak Hill Citrus, you'll find a number of Flo labels with different packing houses rather than that one. Well, anytime there's a variation, it changes the value of the label, anytime. And a lot of it just depends, for instance, on the Flo with the bathing suit. Which one is the more valuable, the one with the button or the one without? Because I don't know. But I'm talking about the Flo label that preceded this one, that there was a blue bathing suit, and one of it had a button and one didn't. But there is a variation there, and anytime you have that type of a variation, it's going to depend on how easy it is to get that label versus the other, and that's where your the difference in your money comes. These are, again, a couple of additional labels that you can get here. True Type is probably around $40. Now the B, you can't get the B. I put that one in there because my name's B. And the Great Dane is a harder one to find as well. Now, numerous Florida museums have permanent citrus exhibits that include labels. This one here just opened this display this year. The Museum of Florida History in Tallahassee exhibit, entitled Fruit of the Boom, it actually features the interior of an old packing house, circa 1920s, along with various equipment of that period and a large display of Florida citrus crate labels. There's also a citrus label show in April at the Winter Garden Heritage Museum during the city's Spring Fling celebration. And that museum has a wonderful display in there that incorporates every single label that was ever shipped or utilized in the Winter Garden area. And Jerry Chicone is directly responsible for that. That's in their old depot area. And if you haven't been there, the depot is part of the Rails to Trails runs behind that. And during the Spring Fling, get a lot of people on the bikes and everything, and walkers that come in there. But if you go into just a couple blocks down from the depot, they have this beautiful fountain that is made up of tiles that have all citrus labels on it, and it's just gorgeous. So if you go there during their Spring Fling, I want to say it's the second week in April. Is it, Jerry, is that the second Saturday in April, the Spring Fling? Second Saturday in April. It's a great show. You'll find a lot of the dealers there who have the big collections. I mean, huge. You'll have a lot of people there. And then a couple of those people also go to the show here at Florida's Natural at the Grove House. So either one is a very nice day. It's interesting. Everybody knows what they're talking about. And it's fun to just kind of go look and see what they have there to be able to show. Oh, yeah. I think so. And like I said, I believe personally that Jerry and his family was very involved in that because they bought that depot and restored it, put a lot of money into it, and really made a nice museum out of it. It's been expanded a couple times. They've got the train right there in front of it, and it's just beautiful. It really is. The Florida's Grove House is located on Highway 27 just south of Winter Haven, right before you get into Lake Wales, and it's across from the Florida's Natural plant. That used to be the old Donald Duck plant. So, but Florida's Natural, when he gives you the orange juice right out of the freezer case, that's Florida's Natural. And they've got a beautiful display in there. It's got some of the old crates, a lot of the old implements. They've got a very well done video in there too on the industry. So again, if you haven't been in there, it's all free. They've got a grove outside there. You go take pictures in front of it. And they have a wonderful gift shop. It's a great gift shop. Bach Tower has a nice gift shop too. And we do a display with them every November that has something to do with citrus. And Bach Tower is getting ready to do, they're in the process of expanding their area, and they're putting in a kids section as well as an outdoor kitchen. So they'll be doing some outdoor, some showcasing outdoor, at their outdoor kitchen with citrus recipes and that type of thing. So once that opens up, that'll be very nice. So hopefully we'll be doing some collaborations down the road with them. Now this is our newest book that Murtis had mentioned, Florida's First Billboards. And I call Florida's First Billboards because of the fact that these images are so indicative of Florida, whether it's nature, whether it's the ocean, whether it's some of the fun things with Gasparilla, Bach Tower, some of our old natural attractions here. And Jerry and Jerry funded it, I did it, and Jerry and Jim put together the labels and gave me all the history on it. So it's kind of a really companion work. This is our second book together, and it's one that we not only have the labels in, but we put in information on some of the early advertising and promotions. We have information on some of the early marketing that used to be done, such as the Florida exhibit pavilion at the New York World's Fair. We have advertising that was done, and even some old sketches from the late 1800s that were done in like Harper's Weekly. So it's really a well-rounded book. There are some labels in here that are duplicated from the first book and the second book, but it's only because they were such prominent labels that we felt they needed to be included for people who might be new to label collecting. And so that's why they would be in there. That book is available down in the gift shop here. It's $50. We would be happy to sign it if you're interested in purchasing it today. And so feel free. If you don't want to purchase it today, it is available on our website. You can order it at $6.95 for shipping. And we will also have it available at the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame Luncheon, which is at Florida Southern College in the Hollis Wellness Center, and that is on March 11th at 11:30. And we have 3 inductees going in this year: Dr. Bill Castle, Jack Norris, and Vic Story. So we're very, very excited about doing that. And then following that is what Murtis was talking about. Around 3 o'clock, we will be having a kickoff of what's called the Florida Citrus Tour. That's going to be part of the Heritage Trail here in Polk County. And our goal is to create signage like this right here, the Merry Christmas sign. Create signage, but twice that size, and put it in various spots throughout the county, and create a driving trail. And with that, we would put together a brochure being done in conjunction with the Visit Florida and the county marketing here for the county, and put together the information on the labels that the municipalities would put throughout the county. For instance, they want to put the Holly Hill label over by where Holly Hill used to be, or still is. The building is still there. And then tell about the history of that particular building and that company. So the brochure would be created where you could start at point A, say the Outpost, which is the visitor center up at 27 and I-4. You could start there, and you could do a tour that would take you throughout Polk County. You could drive. It could be a rainy day thing, or you could get out if you wanted to. But you could drive throughout the county, see these labels on the sides of buildings or freestanding, and learn a little bit about the history as you did that drive and that tour. And in the meantime, see some of the parts of the county that you really don't get out and see. We're all on 27, but how often have you taken 17B or some of these other back roads that used to be the only way you could get around the county? This will do that for you, so you can get to see a little bit more of the real Florida and learn a little bit about the history and the process. So that's our goal. We're starting it here in Polk County, and the goal moving forward is to expand it statewide, to make it a statewide project. And Polk County will be the flagship for that. So we're very excited about that partnership. Now, some of the other citrus label displays that are available, I mentioned Florida's Natural Grove House. Florida Southern College, we became affiliated with Florida Southern College in 2008. It's been a wonderful partnership for us. The Florida Citrus Hall of Fame moved there. We have our annual luncheon there, and we have expanded our role to create outreach efforts. We put together an endowment at Florida Southern College, and we employ 3 to 4 fellowship students every semester to help us catalog and digitize all of the things that are in our archives and are in the Florida Citrus Archives. Now, we've probably gotten through maybe 5 or 10% of what's in the Citrus Archives. And with what we're pulling in through the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame, it became so much material that we couldn't house it. We had to turn away a lot of the 3-dimensional pieces. And I hate to turn anything away because I'm afraid they're just going to throw it out. But so they come to you, they say, people will say, okay, my parents passed away, or we're moving, we need to pare things down. We have this old packing line. I have a 75-year-old packing line that operates. It's something I want to give me, and I have nowhere to put it. I called Jerry. Jerry, help! I got to get this. I don't want it. They're gonna junk it otherwise. He found it. It's in his barn right now. We would love to have a citrus museum. Polk County would be an ideal place to have a citrus museum. And we have a couple of spots. I've talked to Leland. Leland's barn would be a wonderful spot to put that in. So we could turn it into a wonderful event center if we can get some people and some backing in place to make that effort go. But that's a dream right now. We've just been mentioning it. Leland's ready. But barn will stay as it is if we can get the backing to put that together. And then it'd be nice to have a citrus museum, because there is not a dedicated citrus museum that I'm aware of in the state of Florida. And Polk County being the largest largest citrus producing county in the state, we need to be there. But regardless, with that said, we have a lot of other materials that have been donated, and so what I've tried to do with the pieces that are coming in, we do have a storage unit, a small one, so we try to put together displays and loan them out to other entities. Like I said, the Florida State Fair, they're going to be using it. We've done some stuff with Auburndale for their centennial, and we're trying to become a resource now. We've expanded beyond the luncheon. We've become a resource, not just an online resource, but a place where people can come and learn about the industry. They can come we have an office there at Florida Southern College in the McKay Archives Center on the 2nd floor there, and people can come and do tours of the Archives Center itself. And if you have any type of memorabilia, I mean, I'm talking about business, any business papers, anything like that. It creates a snapshot for us to create a preservation of the industry that used to be. These labels were the end of an era. That was kind of Florida's golden boom at that time when these labels were in place, and you just really won't see that time again. And we not only want to preserve that, but we want to educate people about the importance of the Florida citrus industry, what it was like, how people who shaped that industry also shaped Florida. So we appreciate everything that we've been fortunate in doing with Florida Southern College, because those fellowship students and the archivists and the library staff over there have been the people who have made that possible. And the archivist that I started with at Florida Southern, Luann Mims, is the person who is here in place with the Polk County History Museum now. So it's been a great partnership with the students. They recently won a major I'd say panel. I would have to ask Jerry. I don't know if she got here today or not, but she could tell us a little bit more about that. But anyways, the students are really doing a lot with citrus and learning about citrus, and now using it as part of their educational background, and winning awards for their work with us, which is very exciting to us.